Anime presents That Time I Tuned Into a Podcast Just to Listen to Somebody Shill for a Publisher.
Mm-hmm.
I'm your host, Zeke Changers, along with the editor and chief of Honey's Anime, Alfonso Ortiz. How you
Hello.
doing, Fonzy?
Hello, guys. I am doing all right. Just peachy.
I've, I've got myself nice and loosen up for this broadcast today. I'm having a drink of what I call Karen Gillan
Oh,
because,
I know what you're drinking. I like those.
yeah, scotch and
Mm,
ginger. Yes, just
beautiful.
like her. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Uh,
I just discovered a Woodford Reserve. It was a little
yes.
too woody and smoky for me, but put a little honey in that and sweet Jesus.
Mm,
It's beautiful.
yeah. Yeah, I became a Scotch man and you know, yes, the scotchy Scotch sitting on the
Is the
desk
best.
is the
Nice.
best. Yes.
Definitely
All
more of
right.
a rye whiskey guy.
Uh,
But let's do
yeah,
it.
been to a many a distillery in my lifetime,
Uh-huh.
so yeah.
Oh man.
Nothing like the overwhelming vapor of a distillery
No,
just to
nothing
get you
like
in the
that.
mood.
Gosh, you're making me thirsty now. All right, let's do this.
Okay. All right. Okay, here's my pitch for today. Um, I just read the first two volumes of Combatants Will Be Dispatched. It's been put out by Yen Press.
hmm
It is a lovely story about uh, this man by the name of Six. Yes, Six, Six.
hmm
Because he's gone without a name so long, he's forgotten what his actual one is. He works for the Kirasagi Corporation, an admittedly evil organization that is close to taking over the world.
hmm
They have decided to set their sights on other worlds because they're only almost finished
hmm
with taking over this one. They pick their most senior
Oh.
agent, Six, uh, who is only the most senior agent by virtue that he's worked for them the longest. He is sent to a fantasy world with his new lowly android partner Alice to set the stage for a takeover of this fantasy world by this evil corporation that they work for. It is filled with over the top tropes. It is
hmm
filled with some fourth wall breaks that are amazing because the heads of the evil organization, even Six, is like they look like they're dressing in cosplay and
hmm
they have give themselves like strange nicknames instead of, seeming like serious villains. They seem like very cartoony
hmm
villains.
hmm
And the fact also uh, every time every time Agent Six needs a new piece of equipment, it's basically a payroll deduction.
What?
Yes, because that's that's how the corporate world works. If you need something, you got to pay for it yourself because they're not running a charity. Um, and if you think Kazuma from Konosuba was bad, Six is worse.
Oh,
He's willing to use any dirty trick to
okay.
accomplish his goal. I'm pretty sure he would sell his own mother if he could remember who that was. He's also a pervert and ends up being involved in a lot of the classic tropes. And he doesn't understand why he didn't get a harem, considering he's surrounded by women. He like skulks in the hallway waiting for his meet cute. So yeah, this guy
What?
is
Wow.
he's pretty awful, but uh, all around it's fun for its different. It's a techno versus fantasy world, and it's just over the top tropes of how this how how these characters deal in a fantasy setting.
Okay.
Yeah.
What? That's trippy, actually. I've seen the cover of that manga, and I mean, for that one character, it seems pretty grim. And I thought it would be
Yes.
something a little more balanced.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it has a lot of comical moments, but it's he is he is yeah he is a classic. I'd say almost not quite showing because there are some. racy scenes in it, but
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
yeah, he is very much like in the vein of Kazuma from Konosuba, in that he's horny. He wants the women,
Uh-huh.
but he doesn't seem to. The only reason he's doing this job is because he believes he'll get a promotion, and
Mm-hmm.
then all the women will be his.
Oh, in a perfect world. Well, man,
Hey,
this
yeah, we
sounds like he's gonna have a rude awakening in the near future.
yeah, especially when he gets his butt kicked by uh some of these demon lords that are
Mm-hmm.
currently at war with the society that he's scoping out. Yeah. I mean, he punishes a demon lord he beats by forcing her to take part in a photo shoot. Yes. This is the mind of the
All
horn
right,
dog
I
that is
am.
six.
Yeah, my interest is pretty peaked right now. I'm kind of curious. I want to see this because I'm very interested to see how the transition from all of this, where you find out the information and what's going on, characters that have to deal with it, and then the setup for the plot later on. I would imagine is just uh,
Yeah, I mean,
intriguing enough that I would
and
want to
and
read it.
he's not the only despicable one in this story either. I mean, you
Hmm.
meet the captain of the guard and you think that she's like this righteous, virtuous person, uh, but it doesn't take but two chapters to realize that she's pretty awful too.
Dang.
So yeah,
Well,
it's
that is
yeah, you
interesting.
just feel like you have to apologize all the time. I'm
Hmm.
sorry.
Well, I mean, d- now I wonder if I'm gonna get anxiety after reading it or something. Oh
It,
man.
it leaves a smile on your face just because it is over the top. It is funny.
Uh-huh.
But it is one of those
All
stories that
right.
they're like, yeah, if I was a harem protagonist, what would happen to me?
Mm-hmm.
And in most cases, that would be, nothing ever works out the way you want to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my interest is peaked. I want to check this out now. Oh boy.
Yes, the combatants will be dispatched
The combatants will be dispatched.
by
That's
Yen Press. Put out by Yen Press.
it's like a sleeper title right there. Okay.
So what
Dang.
what you been reading?
All right. Well, me, believe it or not, it was also a Yen Press published a manga title. Story by Mochinchi and art by Yasuhiro Miyama. And the the manga is called A Witch's Printing Office, or maybe a light novel. No, 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 it's a manga. It's a manga. And so, A Witch's Printing Office is about a girl who was. So it's an isekai. All
Okay.
right, so you travel to another world, or reincarnated to another world. In this case, she is reincarnated into another world, but um, she doesn't know how it happens, or at least we don't know how it happens. All we know is that she's trying to find a way to get back, and it's really cool because the premise of this is pretty clever. She's
Okay.
transported to a fantasy world where there are knights, witches, magicians, wizards. You have monsters and demons, ogres. So the whole nine yards for fantasy. Um, so she's transferred to this world, and she is not too worried, it doesn't seem, because she immediately, as she's there, figures out her surroundings, realizes that she's not where she actually should be, or in the time that she should be. And yeah, she within a half a year, apparently, she organized her own printing office so that she could print magic spells. And on paper to keep records is what she's telling the people, but what she's really looking for is a magic spell that could send her back to her time.
It's
So
a clever way of doing it.
very clever, actually. So that's what intrigued me the most about it. And then the rest of it's more of a comedy, fantasy. It does seem like there are going to be some intense action situations in there. because it kind of like the whole first volume introduces you to the world, the realm that she's in, the monsters that are included, and how the people are. But what's even more clever uh, is how she goes about to trying to find this spell to get back home. Like she's doing this in beast mode.
Yeah.
So when she last remembers being on Earth in present time like us, she was at Komiket at Tokyo Big Sight in
Okay.
Tokyo next to Odaiba. It's actually a really cool place. So if people know what that place is, it's the building that has kind of like an upside down pyramid and then it's
Yes.
being held up. So that's a really huge event area
Kind of
where
like a big glass enclosed torii gate.
yeah, kinda actually. Yeah, so that's the last place that she was at and she remembers and she goes ahead and realizes that she's in another area where there just so happens to be this holy place where there's also an upside down pyramid, but it's levitating over this area. So that's why she's like maybe this is where the point is of going back or at least finding a clue. Um, so since she was at Komiket, she used that same idea to try and find all these spells. So she devised a giant event, organized it and everything. Got even help from the kingdom because I guess she became good friends with people. She's really like she's really smart. I don't know how she's like up there, almost as if she's a general in the military and the government or whatever, because she has all the support from the government or the kingdom. And she comes up with a Comic Kit style event that's for magicians. It's a place for magicians to go and sell their spells, trade their spells, or for them to go and discover new spells so they can expand their experience and their education and skills basically. And
She's
so
got to work with what she knows.
yeah, she apparently is a beast because she organized this whole event. She's going through everything. She's, bringing something that's completely alien to these people in this realm, and they participate. They're keeping order, but because it's fantasy, there's a lot of like mischief. There's some spells that are a little too extreme, some that are weird and cause problems, and then you have a bunch of wizards and witches that are shoving each other in line, saying like I have to go first, and they're like, no, the queue at the end of the line is over here. So they're doing that whole experience, and I really was immersed in this because I've done it myself, been to Komiket and a bunch of other events at Big Sight, Tokyo Big Sight. And this brought back a lot of memories, and the way she's going about this, I was hooked from the second that I found out about it. And so, yeah,
That,
this is
that
this
sounds great.
yeah, it's really
And
entertaining. It's pretty fun.
and we know it's in a fantasy world because apparently they don't have closures due to COVID.
No, no, not at all. And if it was there, I'm pretty sure there's a magic spell to zap it out of existence. So, but the girl that went back, her name is Mika, and so the main point was that that's how she's finding it. But then she, towards the end, I guess she really wants to try and do this faster. So the Komi style event for the magicians was a setup for her real plot, which is to have her printing shop be available so that all these magicians and wizards and everyone that goes to the event knows her and knows that she has a printing shop and will go to her so they can make so she can make copies of their spells to keep records of and to pass on, and that's how she's gonna find another spell, or I mean, it's another way to find the spell that she needs to go back home. And so that's where things start basically from there. And then every year the event is held and she tries to find the spell. So that's basically where it's left off.
She sounds like a very interesting young lady, I would imagine.
She's pretty cool. She's a hard worker. She's also determined. She's loved, trusted.
Oh, that
Yeah, it's
that's
interesting. It's
now
it's
now
really
does
good.
she have does she have a reverse harem, or is it this more of a,
It's
general?
guess yeah, I guess it's more general. It's more of an adventure trying to find
Okay.
her way home, which I mean, there's some fan service in there.
Well,
because with the spells and the witches and
yes.
necromancers and stuff like that, like there are situations where there are some, at least in this volume, there's a situation where one of the girls ends up in a bikini to try and pick up the spirits of someone, but it was the opposite. And yeah, she and the drawing's really nice. The art is great actually. It's not like exaggerated in any way where it goes beyond like realism, I guess, even for manga standards. But yeah, it's really good. I like it a lot.
That sounds great. Yeah, I, I like stories that seem to bring in um, those senses of realism, like you were saying, with the comic hit lines,
Mhm.
and anyone who's gone to cons, yeah, understands what it's like to stand in line.
Mhm.
Though I haven't done that for many years, thanks to my press credentials, but
Mhm.
I really appreciate the poor, as was once said, the human garbage who stands in line while the rest of us go in. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
sad. It's a fun way to look at uh, the trouble we all go through just
Mhm.
because we like the same thing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's yeah, that is something. I definitely have to say that I don't know, like I guess America versus Japan. Like in America, it's almost kind of like first come first serve, stand in line and wait in line and
yes,
hold your place and try not to like, get people to cut in line and all that stuff just for, common courtesy.
yes,
But in Japan, a lot of times, especially with events that are like really popular, and I would imagine Komiket, it's like they have reservations for these tickets. Like you gotta buy them like like a month in advance.
right.
Some events, depending on what it is, what they're offering, have raffles. So I mean, you have to sign up for a chance to win a ticket to go. But then when you go, you have to go at a specific date and time to
Yeah, they
actually
have
be there and
timed
experience it.
tickets.
Yeah. But all this is done from the comfort of your home. It's not like you're waiting in line to get a ticket and then it's like, oh, okay, well I have to come back at this time. Now I gotta go find something to do and then come back. So in that sense, it's a little more organized.
And I mean, I've made sure to tune in every time
Mhm.
to Twitter with the Comic Cat hashtags,
Mhm.
mainly just to see all the cosplay shoots, which in general are spectacular. I've
Cosplay. Gosh, yeah, their cosplay is great. I've
Yeah,
seen many of them that take it so serious.
hmm
It's just it's a way of life for them. It's
yeah. I mean, yeah,
that's the extreme hobby right there. It's great.
yes, yes, and yeah, the organization in general that everyone shows to how whether it's be the cosplay shoots or the lines or just how you should queue
Mhm. Yeah,
is
line queuing they have on point. It is
yeah.
really good.
What in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, I believe the line is, "Don't worry, if there's one thing I know how to do, it's queue. I'm
Cute.
British."
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Cause yeah, the queuing in Britain, from what I've seen on TV at least, it's very similar to Japan as well.
It's a respect for personal
Mhm.
space.
Respect for personal space and order and making sure everyone is showing up and leaving with a calm, great experience.
Yeah. And that's what I get
Mhm.
everyone hopes that everyone will have every time they go to a
Mhm.
convention, but I've seen those who I've seen the ragged
Yes.
leaving the conventions, and there's sometimes you're like, dude, you should have just paced yourself.
Uh-huh. Yes, exactly. But it is what it
Okay.
is. People have their own
Yeah.
values. Everyone's raised differently. So what can you say?
So, did you get a chance to read Love Me for Who I Am?
Ah, absolutely.
I
It.
have to say it's one of the best, most touching stories I have read recently.
You know, it's probably at least this year. It's already up there. It's probably my top manga that I've read so far this year. And I've read the Ace's story, the One Piece Ace story,
Yeah,
and I fell in love with that. That was great because Ace is an amazing character and it tells about his story life. But this one was so intriguing, original, and the setup, the writing, everything it's great. As a matter of fact, the ending setup to this is similar to a Blue Flag from Viz
yeah,
Media. Yeah, it's almost kind of got that same twist. But first, yeah, no, let's go ahead and talk about this wonderful manga.
yeah. Well, we've got the story of
Mhm.
uh, Mogumo, who is a non-binary student, and a friend of Mogumo's uh, takes interest
Mhm.
and is like, you seem depressed. You don't seem like you fit in. I've
Always
got the
alone.
perfect place for you to be.
Mhm.
And it's a uh, you can correct me on the pronunciation, an
Mm.
Otonoko cafe.
Oh yeah, Otonoko. Yeah,
Yeah, an
Otonoko.
Otonoko made cafe.
Mhm.
But it's from there we really get a sense of, even in that situation, uh,
Mhm.
they don't feel like they fit in because an Otonoko is a boy
Mhm.
pretending to be a girl,
Mhm.
and Magumo uh, doesn't is trying to explain that they are not either. And so it takes us through that, lets us look at that through that lens at life of,
Uh huh.
not being male, not being female, and what it means to be
Mhm.
denied that sense of who we are.
Mhm.
And it's a touching story. It really is, and it's filled with. I feel like that story is filled with so much love and understanding for people.
Mhm.
It really got to me, and it's amazing. I mean, Tetsu. Uh, I love Tetsu's evolution in this. You
Mhm.
know, Tetsu doesn't even really question, well, even though Maguma was born a boy, he Tetsu doesn't seem to start questioning at all.
No.
Wow, my heart starts fluttering at times when I'm
Mhm.
around them, and doesn't even question that. Because in as the title is, love me for who I am, or
Mhm.
in a review I wrote, love is love, and that seems to be the overall overriding message. And I just thought this story struck home even more so in the last
Yes.
week
Yes.
than than it. Yeah, I have to give it to any publisher who puts the time and money into creating and promoting a work that would have really been considered by a lot of places a
Mhm.
niche piece,
Mhm.
and may not have even taken the chance to put it out there.
No, exactly. This is definitely the first time I've seen a manga like this. I mean, I try to read a lot, usually stick towards comedy, shonen, some slice of life here and there, romance. But
Yeah,
lately, especially this year, and what's been releasing, there have been a lot of LGBTQ plus uh, topics of manga coming out, which is really nice. It's great, and I especially like this one because it could even be seen in a very educated aspect as well.
yes,
Because
and even more so, the impressiveness when you read the author's notes at the end.
hmm yes,
He started
actually,
with a story and completely changed it
yeah,
because it wasn't working one way, and he didn't he never knew, he had never heard the term non-binary
hmm
until before he started writing this
didn't know
story,
what it was completely.
and he handled it with such care.
Yeah, he did actually, really good
It
care.
it really impressed me.
I would
Yeah,
I would imagine him having to rework the story based on what he found out about it, and then being like, oh, well, what if I take the approach in the story of how I'm finding out about all this stuff as well, but put it, with characters. And I kind of felt like that's what he was, relaying within this manga. Because it covers so many points. You have a non-binary, and not only are they non-binary, is that they don't necessarily know it, and they're still
Yeah,
trying to figure out themselves. And then
right.
you have an individual Tetsu where his brother is a transvestite, I believe, um,
Yeah,
and he grew
as he
up
described him,
with his brother.
a man who was born with the heart of a woman.
Yes, and he was, open about, well, Tetsuo's brother was open about himself being that way when Tetsu was very young, so he kind of grew up with it. It's something that he knew and understood, but at the same time didn't necessarily understand the backlash with it in society, I guess. Uh,
Yeah, because he grew up with the idea of that being uh every day,
mhm,
and he didn't witness or didn't understand what he was seeing at a young age to
mhm,
know that his brother was different than
mhm.
most other brothers.
Yeah, but it's good too because his concern mostly with his brother was, you know, he, all that he went through. Like, why do you have to go through that? All the hardship and just the, regular
And
people on the streets kind of making fun of you or questioning you or realizing what you are and then, going against it in some way, making fun of you. And, it hits a lot of spots. It's a lot of spots.
yeah, and as you were mentioning about the diversity of the characters,
Mm-hmm.
some of the other maids at the cafe, I mean, one is gay. I mean,
Yes.
that's he's gay. He dresses up as a maid, but he's got a boyfriend, and
Mm-hmm.
he talks about wanting to go on a double date with Tetsu and Magumo. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
there's one who
We have a cross
see,
dresser. We have one that's
cross-dresser who's more like it's cosplay. They
yeah.
get to be another character. They when they
Mm-hmm.
go in, they put on the maid outfit and the wig, and poof, they become somebody else.
Yes.
Yeah, it's which I've long held being going back to our discussion
Mm-hmm.
about conventions, something that I've always upheld with the convention community, especially in the United States, is that for a lot of people that do cosplay at conventions, eh, um, it's fun and enjoyable. And for some, it's the only time they get to be who they feel most comfortable as
Mm-hmm.
being.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, I've if you are a 40-year-old male who wants to dress up as a magical girl, you go ahead, you do it, you look like Sailor Moon, and you feel all the love in the world at the Sailor Moon photo shoots. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it is just that is to me the wonderful part of the cosplay community. I know
Mm-hmm.
it's not a perfect community, but one of my favorite aspects of it is people, at least for that time at the convention, can maybe be who they are most comfortable being.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And then, you know, another thing that I wanted to mention too that I liked about it was that it also touched on situations between, you know, the LGBT community themselves reacting with
Yes.
each other and understanding each other and their own situations. Like that was also another thing that I really liked too.
Yeah,
It's
that you
it's
don't
great.
see that there's y- most people see it as monolithic, though it is a acronym that is what LGBTQ, what six or five, 6 letters long.
Yes.
Each of those stand for something different, and
Yes.
sometimes we just don't get. We see it as a monolithic, as a monolith when it, it just simply boils down to everybody is who they're going to be,
Mhm.
and we shouldn't judge them for whom they love or how
No,
they dress or how
absolutely
they
not.
want to live their lives. And I
Exactly.
think that's the overarching message there.
That is definitely the overarching message. Is if you want to be yourself and you feel yourself in this, zone, comfort zone, or situation or environment, like be happy. I don't know. Yeah, definitely. Why should anyone else go against it unless they're the ones that are really, living under a rock at the fact
Yes.
that what they're doing is normal and should be done like all the time. It's like, no, it's conceited, ignorant,
Yep.
and in some way very selfish.
Yeah.
So,
You got to find, and everybody will find a community. You know,
mm-hmm.
you will always you'll find a community. It
Yes,
may not be the the kids at your school, but the world's a much easier, a much smaller place nowadays. So it's easier to reach out and find
definitely
that
is.
niche of people who will understand you and give you the acceptance. And you know,
Yeah.
uh, I, I've had many friends over the years growing up in a small town where, there are those who I grew up with where I'm like, yes, we knew you were gay,
Uh-huh.
you know,
Uh-huh.
from
Mm-hmm.
from like the moment from like uh, elementary school. We just knew. And then there are some guys who came out and you're like, really? Okay, good for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you may not find that comfort zone right next to you, but you'll find it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think this is for anybody. Uh, this story, "Love Me for Who I Am," is an amazing. It's an amazing story. It's an amazing uh, foray into
Mm-hmm.
these topics that
Yes.
I didn't expect to find in manga.
No. Actually, a lot of the stuff that I found out there was stories, or at least, maybe a couple years ago, they were starting to get pretty generic. They're
Yeah.
also very similar too. And I like that for mangaka to bring stories out like this means that they also have to step out of their comfort zone to at least be knowledgeable in the situation, in the topic, in the category, however it's going to be perceived for them. It's becoming more proactive, and I like it.
Yes. I mean, it is. I tell a lot of people that every writer, everyone who has a story, there are no illegitimate stories.
Mm-hmm.
And so, hey, if there's always going to be an audience, and sometimes that audience isn't who you even expect that audience to be, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but it's yeah. This I think we both easily can say we can't recommend this particular manga enough because
No.
it's heartfelt, it is sincere, and it is dealing with issue the some of the best issues of our time.
Yes. Yes. It's definitely, this is kind of like a breakthrough manga for me. It's great, and I think it's
Yeah,
also a breakthrough for the industry as well.
yeah.
Cause, oh,
I'll definitely find a copy, and I'm going to keep it in the my manga library at school for kids to borrow. So, you know,
yes, build that manga
yeah,
library up.
yeah,
You gotta have
yeah.
that gem in there. And
Yeah,
and
between
oh, sorry, go for it.
no, like a silent voice.
Ah,
It's on my recommended reading list to all the kids, and they can see that. And this is definitely going to be another one.
oh yes, yeah. Silent voice. Gosh, that one's good.
That was
It's
that
so good.
the film's okay, but the manga is just absolutely
Uh
gut-wrenching
huh.
spectacular, and it has some heart-wrenching moments. So yeah, it's it. I
Mhm.
love that when mangaka get out of their comfort zone, as you said, and make stories like uh, this one or the story of bullying in a silent voice accessible to students, to younger people.
Mhm.
I think it is one of the best things that they can do. It is a
Mhm.
great service to everybody because making it accessible, making it not some preachy film video about this is why you shouldn't bully, young lady, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
make it something where kids can that has a sincere approach and kids can understand. I think
Mhm.
that's one of the best things they can do, especially when they jump outside their comfort zone to tell these stories.
Yep. Yeah, this book is a nice introduction to coming out of your shell, or
Exactly.
or coming out of the box at least.
Yes.
Thinking outside the box. So yeah,
Oh,
I can't recommend this enough. It's a great read.
yeah, me either. And let's see, that one. Let's see who delivered that one. Was that
Oh, I think that might have been Viz.
yeah, was it?
Hold on.
Yeah, give me 2 seconds and I might be able to pull it up too. Uh, but yeah,
Oh, Seven
the
Seas. It's Seven
Seven Seas.
Seas.
Okay. All right. Well, with thanking Seven Seas for letting us get a look at that one, we'd also like to thank the cooperation of companies like Viz Media and Yen Press and Kodansha for
Kodansha.
supplying us with the chance to giving us the opportunity to read some of these manga and review them and get them out so people can see some of the wonderful work their mangakas have done. And let's see, that just about wraps up this episode of That Time I Tuned Into a Podcast just to listen to someone shill for a publisher. I hope we've found a manga for you to read and pick up and enjoy. And until next time, for Fonzie and myself, we'd like to thank you for listening and keep reading.
Yes, thank you guys very much. And then just to add, you guys have a place to come to. You can come to our community anytime. Visit our website, Honey's Anime. We also got a Discord server, Twitter account, YouTube channel. Hit us up. I'll probably put those
Yeah,
links in the description of the video below for you.
yeah. We will welcome anybody with open arms and
Mm-hmm.
no judgment.
Absolutely. All right.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
and have a good afternoon.
Yeah, you too. Bye.